Given the data set shown here, calculate the mean and round to the nearest hundredth. I'm assuming here that you are going to do it using the stats mode of the Casio FX260 calculator, which is the only one you can use for this test. So I'm just going to say that we will do it that way, using the stats mode on the FX260, the Casio that we're using. It's very simple. First of all, you need to make sure that there's no data lingering in your stats mode memory. So the first thing I would do is, there are different ways of doing it, but I would just press the on button a couple of times. If there's anything in the stats mode, that will clear it. Then you have to actually go into stats mode. And of course, you've done this a million times now. You do that, by pressing the mode key followed by the decimal point. That puts it in stat mode, and you should see a little SD pop up in the corner of the screen, the upper right corner of the screen. If you don't see the little SD pop up, then you know something is wrong, that you're not in stats mode. Once you're in stats mode, you simply enter each of the numbers followed by the M plus key. So you would do, and I'm not necessarily going to write them all out, but you would enter 3, press the M plus key, enter 7, press the M plus key, enter 2, press the M plus key, and you've got the idea. You keep doing that till you get to the very end. You'll enter 5 and press the M plus key, and then enter 1 and hit the M plus key. Now I've noticed from working with students that sometimes they forget to press that M plus key the very last time. If you don't press it, the 1 does not go in, so be careful about that. This is an optional step, but I would highly suggest it. And that is to check the number of numbers that were entered. And you can do that on this calculator by doing Shift 6. If you press the Shift key followed by the number 6, that will tell you how many numbers you've entered, and that's always nice. And if you count these, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. When you press Shift 6, if you don't get 14, just wipe everything out, press the on a few times, and start over. Because if you don't have 14 numbers in, you're obviously going to get the wrong answer. If you do have 14 in, that gives you some kind of peace of mind that you've got them all and they're in there correctly. And finally, the most important step, not that the others aren't important, is to actually calculate X bar, and you do that on the calculator with Shift 7. So you press the Shift key followed by 7, and if you do that, the mean will pop up in your display, and you're supposed to write it to the nearest hundredth. And if you do that, you'll find that X bar is 5.07. Pay close attention to the instructions about rounding. Pay special attention that you got the right number of numbers in there. Staying with the same data set, now we're asked to calculate the median. In order to calculate the median, you have to order the numbers. Put them in order. It doesn't really matter smallest to largest or largest to smallest, but you do have to put them in order. And if you do that, you'll find out it's 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 5, 5, 5, 7, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All of these little seemingly trivial checks help you to catch errors you make. The middle number is the median, but sometimes there's no single number in the middle, and it turns out that these two 5s are the middle numbers. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers to the left, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers to the right. When there are two numbers in the middle, you simply average them. Now, if they're both the same, obviously the average will be what that number is, but technically the median, when there's no single middle, is the average of the two that are in the middle. Now again, this is a little unnecessary, but because I can see when they're both 5s that the average of two 5s is going to be 5. But if the numbers aren't the same, you do have to carry out the average. And finally, with this data set, we're asked to do the mode. And to do the mode, I need these numbers in order again, so I'm just popping them back in from where I ordered them the first time. The reason I need them in order is simply because I can see how many of each number there are easier that way. Not that there's anything special about having them in order, but looking at them in this way, I can see that there are 3 5s and there are 3 7s. So there are two numbers that are equally frequent. Remember, the mode is the most frequent number, and there are two of them. So we would simply say that there are two modes. The modes are 5 and 7. Now let me say just one more thing before I leave this. If all the numbers are different, this text says there are no modes, and that makes sense. There's no most frequently occurring number, so they would say there are no modes if every single number in the data set is different. One more thing though, if there's just one number that's most frequent, that obviously would be the single mode. If there are two sets of numbers that are equally frequent, you have two modes, which is what happened here. The other thing that can happen, and you've got to be careful here because the text, all the texts don't necessarily say this the same way. But this text says if there are more than two sets of numbers that are equally frequent, say there were 3 5s, 3 7s, and maybe there were 3 3s as well, they would just say there is no mode. And the logic there is if you have as many as 3 sets of numbers that are equally frequent, you might as well say there's really nothing that stands out. There's so many modes, so to speak, that you just say there aren't any. So with this textbook, you can have no mode. That's when all the numbers are different. You can have a single mode. That's when one number appears more frequently than anything else. You can have two modes, which is what happens here. But this text would claim you can't have 3 or 4 or 5 modes. Once you get beyond 2 modes, you would just say there are no modes.